Hi everyone, my name is Anastasiia and I'm a student at USF University. I'm doing my master at SACT program, and this is my project for Palma Ceia neighborhood commercial district. So I will start with that small history intro. Or intro of this neighborhood. Main destination back then was the golf club and a pool out of spring at the Fred Ball Park, and that was the main place families go back then. And now it was called Little Paradise, but now it looked like this. They have small park there. After that goes a few critical observations and of main criteria and points of interest along the street. I'll walk through some points that I focused on while doing my design proposal. So first of all, we saw while visiting the site that the sidewalk was inconsistent and there was a lot of obstacles along it, and all of us have this nagging feeling of heat closer to the lunchtime, and the absence of at least some shade played its role. That makes the distance between traffic signals and crossing feel enormous, and also the kind of poor maintenance of existing crossings. The sidewalks in places was very narrow, and along with obstacles and unpredictable entrances to the commercial and private buildings, it was really hard for two people walk by. The next slide will be the main safety issue for the street is concerning the traffic and non-overall human design. Human design, yeah. All of the street canvas is covered with asphalt and concrete, with small pieces of grass here and there, and the drivers are kind of speeding. So that's what we have right now. This is like point remarks on the current condition of the street, and they are mostly related on the organization of electrical poles and adequate landscaping and prioritizing the target audience, because it seems like the pedestrian scale is absent along the street, and the distance between traffic lights. While doing our contextual analysis, we looked at the street, know what is on the street, who use it, and what existing buildings look like and existing pattern is. And we found out that at the intersection of Bay to Bay and Thingheim Street, there is sort of a starting zone of our commercial district, and the rest of the corridor is almost exclusively commercial, but backed with residential lots on the other side. We also did some analysis on the sidewalks, and the setbacks, which is quite inconsistent, but and it doesn't have really visual connections. But as we can see, the street is really in human scale because people can cross it in about 10 minutes. But because of this huge road at the middle, it's hard for example, for students to get from school to home because we have just 3 schools in 1 mile radius, but 5 more around the district. We also did small analysis of tree and shade along the street, and we realized that even though the Tampa is one of the greenest tree canopy along this commercial corridor, trees are lacking, or they don't do much for water management or for any visual. Doesn't have any visual connection and doesn't even provide shade. So then there is our list of key priorities for successful street. In my case, I prioritized human scale, social dimension, and urban vitality, complete street and green areas the most, and the rest of them are diversity of uses, local identity, stimulating the local economy, social participation, lighting, and active facades are kind of supporting ingredients to the vibrant neighborhood in our case. So there is one of the existing intersection of Bay to Bay and Kime Street. We heard that it's one of the main safe routes to school for children, but however, it doesn't look very safe for me. And I have doubts that it really is, because we have this enormous entrance to the church, and we saw in the photos that the sidewalk isn't in good shape here, and also we have this huge parking lots. So here is one of the possible proposal how the street can look like, taking into account all of the ingredients I mentioned before. So one of the main thing I did here was introducing the reduce of the asphalt covering along the street, and adding the a separated bike track on one side, but still keeping 2 lines, quite wide lines for cars, as well as introducing the roundabout. Next is Magdale and San Carlos intersection, and the pattern is very similar to Bay. All of these buildings are commercially used. There was a huge parking lots, and that's one of the possible street room that can be made there. So we are coming to my main principles. First of those is human scale. Human scale in urban design is mainly about how the scale of street correspond to scale of people who use them, who use it. And our street has all the potential to be used in the best way possible, but it doesn't really have defined street room. So I'm proposing to create it and renew it. And I propose to do that by widening a little bit the sidewalk, adding some pop-up urban experience at the human scale. It can be used as just holiday gestures, but it definitely will help to cover up how the street space can be used. And yes, the next key priority is social dimension and urban vitality. So it's all about how people are using the street. And since wide and accessible streets and parks and sidewalks and bike paths and urban furniture and vegetation, all of that stimulate the practical interaction between people and urban environment. And it can support the social part of it, considering that the promotion of quality of life is becoming even more important nowadays. I think that the local residents could get a lot of benefits from having the vibrant and socially active street without need to drive to it. So I'm I'm encouraging to use the tactical urbanism gesture to test the possible street organization and use. The current rate of the most of houses is generally satisfactory and is hard to change because it's quite old. So the main recommendation will be to provide and maintain this visual human scale room on the street and improve the pedestrian infrastructure and the experience of and the human experience of visiting it. The third key component is complete street. Palma Ceia corridor must be designed to support equal mobility opportunities for all users, pedestrians, public transport drivers, and bicyclists. And this is possible design which can calm traffic a little bit and help people to treat the street as their social and urban place and find the place for themselves on the street. So I'm kind of introducing my idea of having the roundabout along the bay to bay to introduce and divide our street from completely privately owned single families to this commercial corridor on the bay to bay shore boulevard. This element will help to reduce and divide the traffic flow and it will calm the traffic along school routes and neighborhood corridor up to 20 miles per hour. It usually does. So here is, since I'm introducing you the roundabout, I was thinking about having like 3 of them at the main intersection. That will be Bay to Bay and Himes, Bay to Bay and Ferdinand, and Bay to Bay and Magdale Ave. That will help to reorganize traffic flow and make it better. Yes, and the other thing I'm introducing is the bike track along the Bay to Bay to connect Bayshore Boulevard and West Shore Boulevard, basically 2 sides of the bay, be accessible for people who don't want to drive or just want to bike. And green areas. In the social life of urban spaces, William White examines the design of public spaces and how they influence social behaviors among their visitors. Public spaces are for people, and it's all about how people respond to existing spaces. In many instances, it's a matter of quality over quantity. Along the Bay to Bay, we don't have beside the street and sidewalks, we don't have a lot of places to have the vibrant green area, but we, in case of Palma Ceia, we possess the interesting location under the highway, which is not used in any way, but it can be something distinct and particular, and something that adds to local identity and build over the people's residence value of this neighborhood. And starting with simple pervious paving that allow water to flow through, and adding the linear planting of trees along the street, and adding small or not small rain gardens will help to pump up the environmental question along the street. So fifth is diversity of uses. We have a lot of uses along the street, but I think that the main question is that the street have to be for people who live there, not just who use it as transit on the way somewhere, but it have to have all the amenities for each group of people, for those who stay there and live there, for those who visit it from Bayshore, or for those who are going to work or those who are leaving. A local identity. Public spaces can be planned as small business scale and at the streetscape gestures. Small businesses and vendors have significant long-term impact, as well as add to personality and identity of the place. And it's important to build up a strong relationship with people and place to use these gestures. Since we have a lot of art galleries along the street, I think that we can use art as a tool of change. That won't take a lot, just adding some elements that will help to help the neighborhood to bloom. And I think something like some urban programs beside tactical urbanism gestures will help it too, like rainbow crossings or urban game nights. Stimulating local economy and social participation. Quality public spaces are beneficial for people by offering leisure and living in the areas, but they also have the potential to boost the local economy. So by helping and regulating how the local businesses represents themselves along the street will really help to and help them to invite people to their place, to the neighborhood will be beneficial for all parties. Social participation is central element for developing any neighborhood and public areas. It public spaces have different uses and meanings in each neighborhood, and helping residents to build up their neighborhood on the way they want it to be will be really beneficial and helps to create the feel of the sense of place. Lighting and active facades is about organizing the facilities and occupancy of public spaces throughout the day and at the evening time. I'm sorry. So we can use lighting both as a supporting element for human scale, our first key element, but also as the indicator by the local gestures to help frame the street and create points and destinations. And connection between the ground level of buildings and the sidewalks at the street contribute to the safety and attractiveness of urban design. Visually, more interesting streets are used more often by people because it invites them. In addition to this, relationship influences people' perception of the street and how they use it. Jane Jacobs say that it's mainly streets and sidewalks that indicate how public space is perceived and used. So yeah, thank you for listening.